not. Is this the one with your computer?
Not my use, but
Is this the one that has the desktop TV?
I think it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I keep like listening at.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just afraid it's gonna. I've only seen it on the web. This is the first time I've seen it on the web.
I think it's pieces of pretty fun.
What's your name again? Alex. That's so cool. I met people like Alex.
So yes, I'm going to get Chris put up front.
Hello. 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 Can I get everybody's attention, please? We're going to be starting in about 2 minutes, so if I can get everybody to sit down, get your prime spot, get out of the demo rooms. It's really hot with good VR. VR sweat. If you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you need to go to the bathroom, do it now. Or be hungry and thirsty throughout the event.
There you go.
We also have bean bags up in front. For those of you that are feeling ambitious and cozy. There we go.
Oh, yeah. It's the only way.
We need a Zod just before we get started. Does anybody know where a Zod is? A Zod to the left. It's gone. Perfect. Okay. Oz already left the building. All right, let's get this baby started. How's everybody doing? Good? Awesome. My name is Alexander Hawk. I'm the co-organizer of Non-Gaming VR, which is its 4th edition for tonight. I'd love to receive a big round of applause for that milestone. We're just putting out a few fires in the background. No worries, no spotlight on you. So, why non-gaming? Before I get into that, I'm going to take a couple steps back. I want to do my thank yous. So, I want to thank UploadVR for hosting this beautiful space. Incredible. So, thank you for the Upload crew for allowing us to use the space, making all of your nights wonderful for being here. So, thank you to them. Thanks, guys. I also want to thank the rest of the non-gaming crew, especially the founder, Chris Smith, who went around, and Liz Bogart's right there. Yeah. And the volunteers. Honestly, it's the volunteers that do all the heavy lifting in the background and make all of this possible. And to all of you as well, thank you so much for coming out. This is a huge, crazy turnout. Can't believe it. We're super excited that you guys came out here. It's sweltering hot California days. Thank you. So let's get started. Oh, tweet us. We like it. We do like your tweets, so don't be shy. Pull your phones, Silicon Valley. Let's do the Silicon Valley dance together. At non-gaming VR, hashtag non-gaming VR. Super simple. Let's do it. So why non-gaming? Why now? Why should you care? Well, it seems like HTC, Oculus, and these other big guys that are in the ring keep focusing on gaming applications. And that doesn't speak necessarily to myself, Liz, or Chris. So we said, or Chris said, let's start this meetup. That was a couple months ago. And it seems like right now, VR is at this paradigm where creators such as yourselves, builders such as ourselves, are building things that are outside of the scope of games. We want to create things in the medical field, or in the education field, or in tourism or commerce. We want to build all those verticals out. And we thought we needed to build out a meetup group, which is why we're all here. And Chris tells this funny story about why is it called non-gaming. I probably won't do it justice, but I know that he just said, what was the story? There's no other better word or no other better way to put it. So non-gaming. Okay.
It's a really crappy phrase, but it's the only thing for now. Like, it's basically everything in the entire world. So, but everyone thinks of VR related to gaming, so let's call it non-gaming. Eventually, maybe we'll actually have a good name, good brand, but...
If you guys have a suggestion for something that encompasses non-gaming, yes?
Serious VR.
Serious VR? All right, put away your tomatoes, it's fine. So our mission, we'll move on. Think about it, let it sit in the back of your minds while we have our lovely panelists talking about non-gaming and Unity. Let it marinate. So our mission, of course we need a mission. So what is it? We want to connect you guys. We want to build with you guys. And of course, as any good Y Combinator would say, Y Combinator startup would say, we want to change the world. And that's what we do. Honestly, that's what brought us here. That's why we're here. Who's it for? As I said, it's a meetup for builders. People who GSD, get shit done, who are actually standing up and building things. And building more specifically real world applications, things that can actually change the world. And that could be small applications to large applications, next billion-dollar company or unicorn, to an application that could actually just change one person's life, which is what actually the vertical that, or an application that I really care about, medical VR. So as Damon Hernandez put it so beautifully, it's time to stop thinking in terms of gaming. Virtual reality is about encompassing all of reality. So really the purpose is about creating a hive mind, which is what Upload's about as well, and why we're so proud that you guys come out and are here to share ideas. So the first, why we're all here tonight is to discuss Unity, and I'll let Chris talk about that more. I'll let Liz intro you. Talk about Unity which is a gaming engine. So we thought that was kind of funny that most applications are still launched using a gaming engine. So we said, okay, let's scratch our minds, put our minds together, and ask why. So that's the first edition. Next edition will be about Unreal. Who's building on Unreal? And then it's going to culminate into, most likely if the next event is successful, into a debate between people from Unreal and Unity. So keep that amongst yourselves. It's going to be hot. It's going to be good. So without further ado, yeah, it's going to be smackdown. Without further ado, I'd like to present third co-founder, Liz Bogart. Thank you, guys.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming. We are really, really pleased at the turnout. So a quick little background as to how I got involved in the group. I actually randomly responded to a job post that Chris had posted back about 3 months ago. I wanted to stay in the VR industry somehow. I was looking for a job. So we hooked up one day, and we met up one day, and clarification. And we started talking about, why we were in the industry, what we loved so much about it. And, the games are really cool. There's some really awesome games out there, but, the conversation turned to real world applications or non-gaming VR, serious VR. And we both really shared a love for that. So we have now hosted together, this is our third event together. I wasn't there for the first one. Actually, this is the fourth event, but the third one that I've been helping out with. And it's been an incredible opportunity to meet with you and talk with all of you. And it's so great to see how many people share this love of VR and non-gaming VR. And we're really excited to have you here, and we hope that you continue coming back and providing feedback and let us know what you want to see and hear at these events. So without further ado, here's Chris for the panels.
There's a few more beanbag seats up here if anyone wants to come up, and it'd be great if we could just make it a little more casual. If you want to sit up here, I know it's kind of hard to hear back there, but whatever you guys want to do. So really, that was an awesome intro. I figured I'd intro the agenda. We got to the I'm working on a business right now called Juno VR. Basically, we're building meditation-oriented, meditative apps for VR. And when I was starting out, a lot of the thinking was well, what engine should I choose? Unity, Unreal, should I try and do something web VR-oriented? There's all these shifting sands right now from a technological basis of building these VR apps. And so the thing behind this is let's just get some people together who are building in Unity. Let's talk about it. Let's do the same thing with Unreal, and then eventually we'll have a head-to-head battle. And only one of them will survive. So I figured also, I just spent the last month in sort of this working retreat, working on Unreal apps, but 14 hours a day, more or less, really the last 3 weeks. And there's been a lot of really good learnings for me coming new to the VR industry that I thought would be valuable for this group and really set the stage for this these panelists. How many people have built an app in VR in this room? Cool. How many people want to build an app in VR or want to build something? How many people have built one in Unity? Awesome. How many people in Unreal? How many in WebVR, one of the web platforms? Right on. Cool. And so I want to give for how many people have been in VR for more than 6 months? Nice. More than a year. More than 2 years. More than 3 years. Awesome. More than 4 years. 25 up here. Did anyone beat 25? Oh, 20? Oh, cool. So I'm going to give a quick intro to some of the main things I've learned from people that are newish. And really it's about a little less talk and a lot more action. Let's just get to building more. There's so much hype right now in VR. Everyone's talking about the new cool idea, things there's all these media posts. What's really going to push things forward is if everyone's building and finding these new ways to sort of push the brink of VR forward in the way that design patterns, the way everything's done. And so, like I mentioned, there's Unity, there's WebVR, there's Unreal. Anyone else want to add anything to this as far as platforms goes? What's that? Cry, oh yeah. And Amazon too, I guess. One thing that's been interesting for me learning is there's this whole pipeline of the way that VR experiences get created that I think is important to separate out and call out here, especially with a lot of roots in the gaming world and the sort of animated media film world, which is we have these main engines for real-time experiencing of VR, and then on the way into that, we have all these assets that get brought in. So that's asset creation tools. It's sculpting for making assets more organic, rigging for creating actors of some sort, characters, animations, whether that's just an object or an actual character, the way they walk around the world and look around in the world. World building tools for building massive environments, and texture creations, like the shirt I'm wearing. You can have me as a model, and you can have the shirt. The shirt could be painted onto me as a texture. And so for asset creation, it's the models themselves. There's lots of tools for that. We're not talking about them, but it's 3D Studio Max, Maya, Blender, etc. For rigging, you take a model, you put some points on it so that someone else can animate it very easily and have a good way of converting that static asset into something that moves and feels more real and more lifelike.
And a good person to talk to if you're interested in that is Nick Canifax. You're around, Nick? He's got a demo set up in one of the rooms back there, and they are the company that's building artificial intelligence applied to avatars in Unity. There you are. And he's got his hand up. So if you care about that sort of thing, he's back there. Sculpting for me has been this amazingly joyful experience the past month, like getting into ZBrush. Has anyone done ZBrush before? So it's the sort of thing where like I've been doing it and I like light up with like this childish grin. It's like going back to being a kid and having Play-Doh and just being able to mold it whatever way you want. So this is an example of like you might rough out a really rough model of someone's like head, for instance. Now that you want to make it more organic, you take that into ZBrush, and you see in the top right, you would use all these different tools. It could be adding clay, it could be cutting away material, it could be adding material, it could be inflating it, softening it, smoothing it. It's this very organic way to manipulate 3D objects. And a big part of what I'm getting at conveying is that a lot of the reasons I see people aren't starting out, they're not building things, is because there's this daunting sense of like, oh, what engine do I use? I don't know all these tools. I've never done 3D development before. My goal here is to give a high level of some of the pipeline of like how things get made, and then open it up to these panelists so that we can really ask the questions that you guys care about and talk to people who are actually building this environment. So all of these are sort of pre-game engine. The game engine is what takes all these things and like makes them interactive, makes it so you can put on a headset and interact with them. I'm going to skip this video, but if you type in ZBrush on YouTube, there's some really, really cool videos. There's environment building. There's a tool called World Machine, which lets you take high-level, basically fractals, and it'll extract them. And they have all these tools that let you create real-world-like environments. So then you can just toss that into Unity, into Unreal, and you feel like you have a really real-feeling environment. So World Machine is the name of that. It's really cool. There's a couple others that do similar things. And then textures. So like, say you have a 3D box, but you want it to look real. Basically, if it is a thing called UV mapping, where you take a texture and you unwrap it so that you can actually make it roll back around that texture, the actual model. And this can be a very complicated thing. It's something that's very important to think about up front. So these are all generic concepts, regardless of whether you're doing gaming or non-gaming. And I think a lot of people coming into the non-gaming world don't have a lot of gaming background. And so that's why I wanted to bring these up. Any questions about any of these so far? And so for me, I want to just tell a quick story of like the last month. Basically just been like this very open, free-form hacking in Unreal, but all the same things apply to Unity. And one of the key things has just been like starting simple. So I started out just like, how can I get a quick panorama into VR? And so I did A-Frame. Do people know what A-Frame is? So A-Frame is this like quick and easy web toolkit that makes interacting with 3JS in the web browser really easy. So it lets you build a VR experience that runs out of the browser. They make it super easy. You can literally just like grab an image online, load in the A-Frame JS JavaScript library, and then say, okay, put the image in front of me. Now when you start it, you open up your web browser, you put on the Oculus or whatever headset you have, and you see an image in front of you. You can position that, you can make it farther, closer. There's a lot of really cool capabilities there. So it's a really, really simple way to get started. You don't have to download a big game engine. You don't have to buy licenses. You don't have, if you already have web framework background, then it's super easy to get started. It's mostly JavaScript and HTML. Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Thanks a lot.
Jason's doing a ton of stuff in web, so if you care about that, guy in the orange shirt up front. So I just was like, how can I just get that going? So I think the advice for people that are getting started is like, pick something super simple. Since I'm doing meditative stuff, I'm like super psyched about how do you help someone feel a sense of empathy. So I'd like, let's just grab a bunch of people with like pictures of babies smiling, and I'll toss that in to VR. And so you look around, and each of these would like show up as you looked at them, spin a little bit, and it was really crappy and janky, and kind of creepy at the same time. And I was like, there's progress. And then I started thinking like, well, what if you had like, how can you make people be more empathetic if they engage. So this is like I modeled out a heart, and then I found this tutorial online about like creating characters, and so I cut out a bunch of the vertices and created a mouth, and then eventually like added some teeth. So where, like the goal is like it's just total goofing off, but it's like help me to build this program. So like the advice is like just start building. And so then I started animating it to where like, you look at it in VR, it's like slow smile happen, silly looking part. And there's like so there's this meditative avatar on the left side, and then like these creepy hearts all floating around. So this is not what's going to end up being in the product, but like, you're going to build some goofy shit. So just start building, and it's so fun. Like I've had so much fun doing it. The other one's like, what would it be like if you could empathize with a rock? Like, what would it be like to be a rock? There's a part of it, meditation, is about how do you expand consciousness outside of your own head. And so it's hard to see this, but this is a meditative person that started out as just like this meditative model. And then I just started ZBrush sculpting it, found some tours on or, tutorials online on how to like make rocks, and I combine that with this model and make this rock band. And then I like applied some textures that made it look like granite, and then tossed it in to see what that would feel like. And then you can put that perspective in, and you're in this person's perspective, and then you're in the rock's perspective, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a rock. So it's not that fun really, but other things is like getting in worlds. So we pulled in like topographical data of San Francisco Bay Area. This is like a 16 kilometer by 20 kilometer grid. Threw in some water, did some sunset stuff. This is like starting to explore concepts of awe. How do you make someone feel a sense of mind expanding, expansiveness in VR? And this is like some of the progress of that. So like, what would it be like to meditate on top of the Golden Gate Bridge? Like that's pretty sick. And it's actually there's like serious vertigo. What would it be like to be like sitting up at the top of the tower, Sutra Tower? And this is like the sort of scale of it. But like the thing I'm conveying here, I'm not tooting my own horn so much as saying like I didn't plan any of this stuff. It was just by building that like ideas come up and you start building stuff, and the more you have fun. So it's like pick something super small and just get started. And that was what it was like sitting at the top, and it's just like, oh, and I'll eventually ship this probably, and hopefully you guys have some feedback. Couple quick plugs on ways to get started, things that have been helpful for me. Online materials, Udemy has a ton of great courses. This guy, his first one by Ben Tristram is really good on Unity. There's another one on Unreal. He also has Facebook groups for his courses, so there's a big part of learning anything that has to do with community. Like find the people that are doing what you want to do and be with them in some way. And I think you'll really like what Sky's talking about, because that's what he's building here at Upload. Perfect plug here. Basically, Upload is partnered with Make School. He'll say something about that when he comes up. But it's like an in-person Unity dev camp sort of thing. There's also a ton of Slack chat rooms. Does everybody know what Slack is? Web. It's blowing up. So there's one for WebVR, there's one for A-Frame, there's a Facebook group for this Unreal course, there's another one from Unreal. I'm not doing Unity, but I'm sure there's a Slack room. Guy says me. So the thing I'll leave you guys with and intro the panelists is like, what is one thing you can do this week to make progress towards your goals in VR? Just like one simple thing for the people that are like wanting to get started and make progress. And how can you leverage the community around you, the people that are here in this room? Because ultimately, like, we're some of the luckiest people in the world right now that we understand VR. We are surrounded by people with lots of money who want to invest in VR, and we're surrounded by people who, more people here know VR than anywhere else in the world. So you're lucky, and you kind of have an obligation to make something really awesome. And figure out how to make community a big part of your learning. It's huge for anything, no matter what you do in life. And that, I guess I'll end with the purpose of life, which I think is for everyone to find their ultimate, truest like self, your authentic self, and to figure out a way to embody that day. And I think VR is one of the most compelling ways to take your perspective on the world and put it out there. So with that, I will intro, let's see who we have first, Max. Why is he here?
Sweet. Hello, my name is Max. Well, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm going to try and breeze through the background, the stuff I've done. And so I'm hoping to spend most of the time talking about what I'm working on now. So my career started early, back in 2005, with music. But my rap career didn't really pan out, unfortunately. So I did the next best thing, which was, of course, to become a programmer. Since then, I've worked with a lot of different musicians, including Bjork, Lady Gaga. We've produced the world's first app album, which was also the first app to be acquired by the Bjork Music Modern Art. And also, I got to build these cool instruments and perform them on stage. It's like a festival performing in front of a bunch of people, which was kind of crazy. And I was fortunate enough to be able to create a small studio that focuses on kind of the way people interact with computers, and also builds tools to help people build software. I guess people interact with this kind of. And that was acquired by Google just a year and a half ago. And honestly, everything at Google was great until I tried the Vive. After trying the Vive, it became kind of clear that everything I was working on was completely irrelevant. Like this interface for a computer felt so much better than anything I had used before, just after using it once, that I decided to leave and focus on VR full time. Now, I'm sure, at least I hope most people in this room have tried a Vive. I'm sure if you have, your first demo is most likely Tiltbrush. I think the reason most people choose Tiltbrush is you don't really have to learn a whole lot to be able to use it. This is kind of capitalizing on our perceptual and motor skills, our hand-eye coordination. And these are skills that we developed far before we learned anything like how to read or write or any kind of language. These are skills that we practice every day and have been practicing for our entire lives. And because of that, it makes for a very, very intuitive interface. And so I left my job at the beginning of this year, essentially to pursue VR full time. I wasn't exactly sure what would be the most compelling use case, but I knew that there was something there. So essentially, what I want to do is kind of just walk through a few prototypes that I've made over the last few months, and why I think they're particularly interesting. So this is the first prototype, and I want you to pay attention to how much you're able to read as far as body language goes, and how much this looks like a real person. By the way, this is like some classified stuff, so pictures, not sharing anything. You see me do me Again, classified, please don't post that. But so, the reason that I think this works so well, if you guys can see it, is the human brain is really good at recognizing body language. Really, the only information you're getting is the position of my head and my hands. But your brain is able to fill in kind of the rest of my body. You can probably tell, like a lot of emotion from it, with just a very small amount of data. And what's even more interesting is when you view this in VR, it really feels like you're in the room with another person. Like this movement is so clearly human. It doesn't look like a computer AI. I don't really know the science behind that, but it really, like, your ability to empathize and understand that there's a person there is, you're just as effective at it as you are in real life. And so the second prototype I'll show you guys today is pretty much the project that I'm working on right now, which is essentially just a social VR app to let you kind of spend time in a virtual space with another person. And so this is my roommate here. We're kind of like automatically walking around this small globe. He's drawing kind of Tiltbrush style. This is a first-person point of view, what I'm seeing. And what's so cool about this is my memories of doing this with him are kind of no different than my memories of riding a bike with him, like just hanging out. Like, obviously, it doesn't look the same, but the emotion is still there. Like it's not like I'm remembering seeing somebody on Skype. It's a lot more like we were both in the same space hanging out. And I think what's so compelling about that isn't necessarily that like two people can feel like they're in the same room when they're across the globe. Rather, this is a space that doesn't have to abide by the laws of physics. You can have whatever space you want. Here we're on this tiny globe, and when you walk around on the Vive, It kind of like rolls underneath your feet, and really you can have kind of whatever superpowers you want. And I think the potential here to essentially create like social experiences you couldn't imagine having in the real world is incredibly compelling. I think that should be about 5 minutes.
Sandro Sabatelli.
Okay, so Alessandro, I've been working in software design. Hi. Hey. I've been working in software design and engineering for many years, and have always really been interested in this sort of future where I become something different. So something somewhere between a machine and a man. I don't know what that is. I also really like psychedelia, and so when I think about these things combined, I get very excited, and I like to apply my acumen towards that. So I've been working on a couple of experiences, they're mostly experiments, but one of them I've lovingly called Lucy. That's thanks to Greg, who's walking away. And Lucy lets you experience the world different. And so one of the things I really like about VR and AR is that the glass is gone. Now software becomes my experience, and I can engineer and design that experience. And so, for instance, with Lucy, I can decide I want to go tripping and then take it off, which is pretty exciting. And you can do this in many ways. So mostly what I'm doing is I'm writing a bunch of shaders that make things pretty trippy. But when you start to leverage the power that we have in, say, mobile devices, you can do a lot more. So I'm starting to now explore machine learning. You can imagine scenarios whereby, like, I don't know, you're walking around outside and there's a bunch of billboards. Maybe the billboards are all gone. Or you can cover up the top of the ceiling, it's a rectangle, whatever. Or change people's faces. Or I like to walk around the city and listen to music. Go to museums and listen to music, and it changes my experience. But that experience is fairly abstract. It's almost like reading or dreaming, but that experience can be actualized by then, say, doing some kind of data analysis on the music, and making now what I see respond to the music. So I'm sure you guys have all seen all kinds of music videos and all kinds of super things. But to me, as a space, it's super interesting because I then I get to control my own visual experience. And I say lovingly like psychedelia and tripping or whatever, but I think it also casts all the way down to like kids, which I think are tripping all the time. And I imagine the future where my kids are growing up, which is around now, and like they're sitting around laughing, which they tend to do, and I don't really know why. But in this future, their shared experience is visualized. So maybe they're laughing because my head is 20 feet in diameter and there's stuff shooting out of my ears, which maybe they're talking about with each other today. The same way that like when I was a kid, I used to do like little spaceships on paper and then shoot bullets with my brother. But this future will exist where they can enact this. And you can think about like maybe this is a telepathic future or some kind of shared social, computational medium, but we have the power to bring that into fruition. So that's my personal goal, and I've started working towards that. And yeah, I have a demo if anybody wants to try it. Yeah, that's about it.
Key designers at Apple did a lot of stuff you're very familiar with if you use an Apple phone. So he probably doesn't want to turn his own, but you can look at his profile if you want. And next up we have James Blaha, who did some really incredible stuff with his own eyes, and let him give an intro to that.
So my name is James Blaha. I'm the CEO and founder of Vivid Vision. So it all kind of got started a couple of years ago when there had been a lot of new research coming out about lazy eye. So I was born with lazy eye and a crossed eye. And so before about 6 or 7 years ago, people would think that by the age of 8 or 9 that the brain wasn't plastic anymore, there's nothing you could do. You could only really treat lazy eye kids. But it turns out that there's a lot of research showing that's not the case, that you can control the visual input going to each eye accurately. There's a couple of tricks you can do to trick the brain into using the eye when normally there's no incentive to use the eye. And so about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, I got a DK1 and I decided to try to see if I could measure and possibly improve my own vision. And it turned out that it was easier than I expected and I could, and it worked. And so I didn't have depth perception before I made that first prototype. And then after I made it, I taught myself to have depth perception in 3D vision. So since then, we've built prototypes. We actually launched to optometry clinics last October. And we're in almost 40 clinics across the US and Canada. And we've now treated about 1,500 people so far. And we're using Unity. I'd be happy to debate on the side of Unity for the debate. Need someone. And happy to talk more about that now.
He runs the Upload Academy. And
yeah. I'll keep this short so we can get to the panel. My name is Sky Knight. I wrote first, book of the modern VR era, Virtual Reality Insider. Did a lot of game development, kind of taught myself Unity in less than a year, and then jumped right into VR education. And now we're doing a course at Make School, which is actually next door, where we're teaching about 15 or so students to use Unity to do actual VR development at a professional level. So I'm very interested in accelerating learning, and my long-term goal is basically recreating the entire education paradigm, K through 12 plus, within about 10 to 20 years. We have a little bit of time before that happens from not having that pipeline built. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm all about, and yeah, so for now.
be afraid. So maybe let's start off with just a quick round of what inspired you to get into VR. You mentioned that too, wow experience the first time you put on the live. How did you know it was the right time to just jump on?
I don't think there was anything specific where I knew it was the right time. I think part of it was just it was one of the few things I tried that felt really new. I've been doing mobile for 10 years or something like that. And just you don't really see many new mobile interfaces right now, or if you do, they're not really great interfaces because people already kind of are accustomed to the way you do things now. Whereas with VR, it's kind of like uncharted territory. No one really knows how you're going to solve a lot of these problems. I think that was what was most interesting.
Let's see. For me, I've been doing. I call them sort of like framed. Some people call them just rectangles. UI for a long time, and when I saw the advent or the coming of consumer VR, I started sketching, and all of my sketches were frameless. So continuous experiences whereby you could leverage implicit intent, so knowing where the user was looking without them actually enacting some kind of affordance. And from there, I think you can do a lot. We only really get that today through eye contact with people or machines at best. So, for me, it's just sort of
had a couple different moments where different parts of VR sort of clicked. So the first one was the first time I put the DK1 on, and I was just not expecting to see something like that. My friend had one at the time. I didn't see 3D, so I sort of had this idea that VR was a gimmick. It's just about 3D, and so I don't really need that anyway. And then I put it on, and there's a car behind me. Like I turned around, it's that crappy, that first DK1 crappy demo, and I was like, holy crap, it's behind me in my room here. And then the other one that I knew was going to be important for me was the first time I saw it in 3D in the headset. It was about 2 weeks after that. And then the first time I thought VR was going to take off as an industry was when I tried Tilt Brush for the first time. And that's when I thought this is actually kind of useful for way more than I previously thought it would be once you got your hands in there and walk around.
Yeah, like the early Oculus was like totally targeted, I should say, or basically like same deal. Like I was like, oh, 3D headset, like 3D is a gimmick, like screw 3D. And then I tried it and I was like, oh, they have VR, right? Like it was like they were advertising as a 3D headset, but it's like I guess it hadn't been clear to me that it was VR. And I mean, I at least as like somebody who's sci-fi, like VR is like I had that click moment as soon as I put on, like, oh crap, we're already here, or not crap, but like wow. It was like, how did I not know this until now, And then, I just, I actually didn't jump into it right away because I was, in the app paradigm. And then I just, over time, thought about it more. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of the next big macro trend in society. And so then I immediately jumped, full 100% of my time into VR.
Any quick questions from the audience just on the people's background?
I have a question for James. When you said that you got you're helping 1,500 or you're installing 1,500 optometrists, what did you install? Did you get them an Oculus there, or are they VR, or how are you delivering that?
So the question is, what does it mean to be installed in a bunch of optometrists' office?
Yeah.
We're in almost 40 optometrists' office, and they've collectively treated about 1,500 people going to their clinics. So right now, what they're getting is a computer and a DK2, and an Xbox controller and a Leap Motion, some remote support and stuff like that. So we basically sell them a package of all the hardware because they're not really most tech-savvy people in the world. So we have to make it sort of really, really, really easy for them to get it up and running. So we're sort of looking forward to the day where CD1s are readily available. We can order more than one of them and get it in a reasonable amount of time. And then we'll get everyone upgraded to CD1. But until then, we're still shipping out DK2s. And we also have our software working on the Gear VR. So we're planning a home version release later this year or early next year.
Sell it by the software, or what if you sell the whole thing?
For the home version, we'll sell the software alone. Oh yeah, so the question was, do we sell the software or do we sell the hardware too? And for clinics, we sell everything. And we get the hardware put together and ship it off to them. But for the home version, we're sort of expecting there will be something like a Gear VR for basically every phone, and not too long, and we plan on supporting that. No, so we've done a few studies. Our first study was with adults, which previously people haven't shown good results in adults, and we saw about a 60% success rate over a couple of weeks. It was 8 40-minute sessions over 3 weeks. We're doing a larger study at UCSF, and we're also starting another potentially even larger study at Berkeley.
Next question, what made you choose Unity? What was the thought process coming into this development phase? Quickly, go ahead.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was all my friends were already using Unity. So it was just, they're the people who I got information to get started from and helped me pick up the tool. And yeah, I really had no issues with this. It just hasn't been a reason to try it. I've tried Unreal, but it solves the problem.
For me, Unreal was not free when I started, or free. And I love C#. I think it's amazing. To me, I've done a bunch of C++ programming, and I'm probably twice as fast as C#. So it's sort of a no-brainer.
There's a whole bunch of practical reasons why I think Unity is a better choice, but for us, it all really came down to a business decision. When I took a look at it, Unity was above a certain amount, they're going to take 5% of revenue. So if you're expecting larger than a certain amount of revenue, then it just makes no sense at all from a business perspective. Then the other big reason is just the cross-platform support in Unity. So being able to like when we developed everything for the DK2, and then when we went to go support the Gear VR, it took us less than a day. And then it was mostly like performance tweaking and stuff like that we had to do. We didn't have to rework anything or recode anything. And so those two things are definitely the biggest reasons, I think, for us.
So I did a fair amount of research into kind of both engines before I started, and I actually spent like 8 months interacting with people in the community and kind of asking them questions about them. And it really came down to, one, the Unity developer community. I think like 90% of VR apps right now are made in Unity. So if you have problems or you're learning, chances are on a forum somewhere there's already an answer for you. So that really accelerates how quickly you can learn something. And then also C++ is, from my understanding, like fairly more complex than C#, at least from a learning perspective. And so C# is just like, again, like a really cool language. And so it did a lot of that harder work that you would normally have to think about. So those were kind of the major things. It just seemed like the engine you could learn the most quickly and is the best supported in terms of other people using it, so network effects.
Any questions from the audience related to Unity?
Oh, sorry. One last thing. So when I was trying to decide where to jump, so from my background, I've always been really interested in node-based or flow-based programming. So one of the things that I did at Apple is I worked on Quartz Composer, which allowed me to like really build things quickly. And so I became with blueprints in Unreal. But I found also in using many different node-based programming environments that oftentimes I need to program my own nodes. And again, so having to drop into C++ is sort of a non-starter.
So Blueprint is this graphical language that lets you basically create logic within the engine without programming any actual code. And it's an Unreal thing. There's something similar in Unity. Yeah, there's some plugins that do some similar stuff. What have been some of the hardest technical challenges you've had to overcome so far in Unity, and how have you overcome them? Briefly, without like want to open up a can of worms here.
I think for me it was do a lot of procedural geometry in my work. I've always been enamored with procedural geometry, so I end up trying to create a lot of procedural geometry in many things that I do. And, Unity has some basic limits. All of the pointers are in, so that as a result, your models only have like 65K vertices. So having to overcome that took me a little bit of time to figure out. But with Unity's batching features like static and dynamic batching, you can once you overcome that limit, the actual draw call limitations and rendering limitations sort of collapse. So that was sort of a big one for me. Once I broke through, it was pretty amazing.
For us, we've had to do some make some modifications because we're changing the image going to each eye in ways that are not typical. So we often have kind of not well supported. We'll have to modify Oculus's libraries, for instance. Whenever they make changes, it gets arbitrarily harder or easier. And sometimes it gets a lot harder for no clear reason. So for us, just being able to get in there and adjust the things we need to adjust has been the most difficult stuff. Sort of on the game ends, we make relatively simple games. It's not like AAA quality games are more focused on efficacy of the treatment, but then actually getting into to their libraries and starting to modify things is always where we run into our hardest blocking issues.
Yeah, I'm glad my game doesn't make use of of the base level API. Yeah, so I guess on my end, like as somebody making like individually as a single or duo developer, like 3D game content, although I didn't want to make some like content next. I would say like optimization in general, and this isn't just a Unity thing, but if VR in general, like if you're trying to hit 90 or 65 or however many frames per second it is, it's way more than any traditional 3D imaging platform. And so you have to think really creatively. Like there's actually like not a whole, like there's answers online now, but like it's, you know, within the last year or so, people solving these problems. So, I mean, one example is my game makes use of fairly complex textures, so images, and so you can only load so much in your scene at one time. And so my solution, which I see now other people are doing like months later as well, not because I did it, but just like similar paths, right? Is to preload everything into your computer memory and just hold it at runtime. And the reason for that is a Unity specific thing, which is this thing called the garbage collector. So C# is what's called memory managed. Basically, every so often, anything that's like not being used and is not set up will be cleared out. But what happens is when that happens, you get frame drop, and so that will make people sick. And so it's really hard to, you basically can't control when that happens in Unity because of C#. And so the solution is to never use it. And I haven't really seen too many better solutions than that, but yeah, so that's like kind of one challenge.
Really, the only technically difficult problem that I dealt with the multiplayer stuff was just I wanted to make a system to let people load in their own compositions from Unity, and there's a nice asset bundle kind of system, but it doesn't support arbitrary scripts. And so I think the hardest part was just making something that can reflect in classes from other people's Unity compositions, but at the same time, that's a feature that's not necessarily exclusive to C#, but not really something I could dream of doing in C++ with Unreal. Any questions from the audience?
Scott.
Movie rendering. So that's like more of the software, but those are more like hardware based, like Code, I guess. That's code-based rendering, right? Or they're trying to do code-based rendering. They have the eye tracking. They don't actually have code-based rendering. As far as I know. You would probably know more.
Yeah. So if you have eye tracking built into the headset, there's something called foveated rendering, where basically you only have good detail in your vision, about the central 15 degrees. All the rest of this is like really crappy, even though it seems good. Your brain sort of fills in the details and tells you you're seeing things clearly. So with foveated rendering, if you have eye tracking camera in there, you only render in high detail where their eye's pointed, and as their eye moves around, you can blur out basically or render in low resolution all the rest of it. You can get a pretty big gains. I think at least 60%, something like that. And so, I would expect that most headsets will have eye tracking built into them, just for foveated rendering, because the cameras themselves are cheap. All the cost is in R&D. And so we're obviously really excited about that for totally different reasons, because we can measure other things about their eyes, but video gaming is going to kind of drive the cost of all that down just to save money on GPUs. And so I think it is going to make a big difference, but we just need to wait until the hardware manufacturers stick the eye tracking cameras in there and get it all working. But I expect that to be probably the next iteration of the Vive and Rift eye tracking, I would assume.
Maybe a quick question is like, what are you shipping? Like, are any of you shipping in the Oculus store, Gear store? How are you getting the product out to your customers if it's not sort of enterprise oriented? And what have been some of the learnings there? I'm not shipping anything right now, but I think the main goal is Steam. I mean, Steam seems great.
with OpenVR, you can target both the Vive and the Oculus headset, and really talk about the DRM or exclusivity.
For me, so when I built Lucy, the goal was to build it for Gear VR. And so about a month ago, I pushed it to the Gear VR store, and it was actually rejected. But I found out a month later. So it literally took me 4 weeks. And so I'm working through that process now. But it really has left an interesting taste in my mouth.
So far, we pre-install our software on computers and then ship them an entire desktop. So we don't use any of the stores or anything like that. Then we patch. We have like our patcher installer set up on it. And we'll go in and release patches automatically. We kind of sidestepped all that stuff since we're selling the hardware too.
Yeah, I'll be shipping sometime this year. This game I worked on. So Steam and Oculus as well. Their Oculus Home, I guess they're calling it. Yeah, an interesting note about stores is just that they're not like the Oculus store is kind of interesting because you can submit your app, get rejected, and have no reason why it was rejected. I hope that at least VR maybe has some no feedback. Yeah, so it's kind of ridiculous in that regard. And then Steam is a little bit different. You do this thing called Steam Greenlight, where you basically put your game out there, and then people vote on whether they think, just people in the community, gamers, people who are interested, vote whether they think it should be allowed on Steam. So that's a bit of a different process. And it seems like it's the one that works better, just even though it sucks that you have to advertise before you actually release your game. It's better because at least you can get your game up rather than just being blocked. Yeah, so it's been interesting to see if there's a third party that comes out. I know there's a few companies working on that. None of them have enough people using them yet to make content creators want to really do it, but it's a pretty low barrier to entry for a content creator to put their app up on a store, right? You just give the people the executable and they can figure it out on the platform side. So yeah.
Alessandra, have you considered doing anything with direct APK, put it on a website, do some sort of marketing? Because you can kind of circumvent the VR store, but then you have to drive traffic.
There's Sideload VR, which is really interesting. This guy Mark put it up, and it sort of sidesteps the store. But I mean, for me, I'm happy to give away. I don't care. I mean, the big issue is it's really because of the way that the Gear VR works. I need your device ID in order to literally build an APK for you. And so what Sideload does is they literally inject your device ID on their server, and you download the APK. So I'm not involved in terms of building an APK for you, because that's cool for 10 people. It's not cool for 11.
Yeah, that's actually something we've looked at doing too. I think it doesn't seem like it's too difficult to automate that yourself. And I'm sure someone, Sideload VR person did it. I'm sure someone's just going to release a version of that, make it clear exactly how all that's done. I don't think it's very many steps. It just has to be done correctly. So it seems like something where it's totally possible to automate it, so you don't have to. You'll put a little app on their phone, which will get their device ID, sign it, communicate back to your server, which builds and signs it, and they download it, install it.
There is a funny thing though, where if you read the T's and C's or the EULA from Unity, you're technically not supposed to modify the APK. So it's a little gray, but I live in gray water.
Any questions from the audience?
You mentioned that the Oculus Rift is not easily available yet. Why not use one of the other?
Question is, if Oculus Rift isn't available easily right now, why not use something like HTC Vive?
Or OSVR? Yeah.
Mostly inertia. we already have everything running with the DK2 and the CB1. We're right now looking at adding support for Vive, and as soon as I could get one of the new OS VR headsets, I would look at that too. We are planning on supporting basically every major headset that comes out, even if we don't release something for that, just to sort of develop that kind of discipline, I guess, to make sure it's easy for us to switch and that we're truly hardware agnostic. I mean, where we stand now, we're already sort of not, because it's easier to stay with CB1, but I think we are planning on putting some of that work in to make sure that our system works on all these different headsets. We don't want to be in a situation where we're locked into a headset maker and then there's 10 and that one goes under and then we have to redo everything. So hopefully we'll have some Vive support in not too long. But Steam VR is making stuff a little bit easier. And it seems like the tools are getting better to support multiple headsets and we won't have to maintain as much of that as we currently are.
The last question before we go into some 1-minute micro pitches. What one piece of advice would you give to someone starting out in VR right now that would save them time, or something you wish you had known, or something inspiring, words of wisdom?
Yeah, so my number one piece of advice would be, like, if you're interested in having an impact in VR, / like definite job security is always nice too, but really it should be about like what impact you want, then really you should just take the time to learn, at least spend a month learning like either Unity or Unreal and like some basic coding skills, because you'd be very, very surprised at what you can do with like a month of dedicated learning in those technical areas. And like that's what, like, I spent basically like 3 weeks learning Unity and C# like total, and then I was like, wait, this is like really easy in comparison to what I thought it would be. And that's what then I jumped in full time. But yeah, definitely do that, because literally you're gonna know, way more than 99% of people in the technical area of VR. That is very, very valuable.
I guess there's a few things that could be said on the practical end if people are interested in learning how to build things. I think your advice is just get building is the most important thing. Just dive in, Google stuff. But on the other side of things, I think it's important to ask the question, if reality could be any way, what way do we want it to be? And it's an extremely, we're kind of increasingly unconstrained on the experiences we can make. And it's not at all clear how we want reality to be. If all this stuff is really good and we're constantly in an augmented world, virtual world, we're going to be spending a lot of more time in these worlds. And so the question is, what should it look like? I think what we're lacking right now is very, very clear plans on what to actually build. And so we're just getting all this sort of random experimentation, which is all we can do in the absence of clear plans. And so even if you're not a coder or a programmer, even if you never intend to, I think a lot of the hard work to be done is just thinking and outlining, and then presenting those plans to the community. And a lot of the time, if you present stuff, throw it out on the internet, someone out there will just build it. So you don't even necessarily need the skills to build it. The ideas are sort of more important. Yeah, you always see phone-like 2D interfaces just stuck at some place in VR, and I feel like it's super lazy. But it's where you start. I mean, without really thinking about like, I think as time goes on, we're gonna some applications will look more like objects or products that you'll hold in your hands that'll have some ability that you'll manipulate like an object that you feel like you own, and it'll do things, and so I think we're not going to have these sort of just more 2D screens floating around you. You're going to have worlds where the interface is using metaphors that you built up your whole life, like switches and doorknobs. Like I would look at like industrial machinery. How are the interfaces on industrial machines? How do they warn people not to put their hand there? I think stuff like that's probably more relevant than like web interfaces.
That's awesome. I think from an aspirational point of view, like sort of dovetailing off of that, like when you think about ubiquitous internet and a continuous computing substrate that we will be inhabiting, where we can create our own realities or escape it. I think the point there is really to dream and to sketch, but I think from a practical point of view, I think, of course, like building things is really important. For me, what I've learned practically is knowing when to bail. So making things, because it's so easy as a designer and engineer to fall in love with the things that you make. But it's important to recognize the good things about them.
I think probably the only thing I would say is just build as many prototypes as you can and move towards whatever feels the most compelling. Kind of building off your point about like floating UIs, like I've heard like story after story about people start with that. They start with like a floating UI panel and it just really doesn't work. It's always in your way. Like I think Fantastic Attraction started this way. You pick out all the tools for this like floating UI, and then they made a bucket and they found that people would always kind of stand next to the bucket, and then they made a cat that you can like call over to you. And that was kind of the point where like it's an interface everybody gets. Like it has this nice emotion, but it's not really something you're going to think of. Like nobody sits down and build a game like that. Of course, we're going to put it on the back of the cat, and you'll just call it over and it will fart over to you. Like, and so yeah, so I think that like never underestimate prototyping. You build 100 ideas and choose the best one. Like you don't have to tell anyone about the 99 ones that kind of sucked.
Wow, incredible stuff. Last question from the audience, and if not, then maybe a really good round of applause for these guys. They'll be around, we'll be mingling after. Thanks so much, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. So we just have now, before we can get back to mingling and drinking and eating, we have an unofficial sponsor from Montreal International. So I'm actually a Montrealer, so I'm really proud to introduce the next speaker, Mark McLean, at Business Development for the West Coast. So he's going to talk to you about why Montreal is fucking awesome, why you should move there, and he's going to do a goddamn convincing job. So round of applause for Mark McLean.
After Mark, I'm going to do 1 minute micro pitches. So if you have an idea you want to present, a project you're working on, a team you want to build, something you need help with, if you could come up and meet Liz up here, you can make a line, and then after that, so just be an opportunity to pitch something, throw something out there, talk about your demo. Thanks.
That's a lot to live up to. I swear to God, I won't be boring. You might be asking yourself, why a French guy from Montreal is up here talking about VR? It's because Montreal has a lot to offer. And like Alex put, we're fucking awesome. There is a lot going on in Montreal here. We're one of the places in the world for video games, right? And so you can take from that what you will. But a lot of that evolves into VR, right? A company in Montreal recently just got a $6 million investment from Comcast for VR, Felix Paul Studios. They did a lot of stuff. One of their main videos they did was for LeBron. So I don't know how well that'll go over here. But it's all good. And so if anyone's ever interested in doing something in Montreal VR, like talking, you got my details up there. Reach out to me. Let me know. There's a lot of ways to do it. And I hope I'm not blowing Alex or Miriam's cover here. And another reason I'm here is because the team at UploadVR is awesome. Alex is amazing. Miriam, both these guys I knew from Montreal, they're fantastic. But there's a way to set up in Montreal. You can be in Montreal and have a presence here. And the cost of doing business in Montreal is dirt cheap, right? You'd be surprised how cheap it can be. We have the town, we have the cost, we can make it work for you. There's a lot of ways that Montreal can help you succeed. So if you're ever interested at all, reach out to me. I'm happy to go for a coffee, go for a drink. go for a bite to eat. I'm in San Francisco about 6 times a year. If you ever want to come to Montreal, that's when we can really have a good time and do business side of things as well as some fun side of things. So thanks for having me. Don't hesitate to reach out. Shoot me a text, shoot me an email, find me on Twitter, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Before we start the 1 minute micro pitch, we'll begin the 1 minute micro pitch, but we have another organizer from the VFX Meetup group. So we have Igor Bosher, not sure if I'm saying the last name properly, visiting us from River Studios. So good up for Igor.
Thank you, Upload. Thank you, Chris, for hosting this meetup. It's great. I think Chris had a really good point about the community and sort of spreading knowledge. So I've been working in visual effects industry on feature films for about 10 years now. And I'm trying to build up this community around film technology. So I'm the organizer of the VFX Technology Meetup, where we bring different technologists from Disney, Pixar, ILM to talk about infrastructure and tech behind the scenes on feature films such as Star Wars. So next week we are hosting a VFX Tech panel discussion with panelists from Lucasfilm, Amazon Web Services, and Atomic Fiction to chat about sort of the next generation of VFX pipeline. So if you're interested in tools such as Maya, ZBrush, texturing, rigging, modeling, and the process behind it, you definitely should stop by. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a coupon code there, discount code.
Discount code is non-gaming VR, so special for you guys. Thanks, Igor. So without further ado, to end off the evening, we have 1 minute micro pitches. Holy crap, we have a big lineup. Okay. I think we also have people on this. If you guys, who from this side of the room also wants to pitch, just so I kind of get an idea. One person. Okay. There's 2 people. Okay. Let's get 2 lineups going, see how that works. If it doesn't work, we'll rapidly prototype and iterate. So the way it works is pretty obvious. You write your name, your company, your Twitter, your social contacts, and you say what you do. We're going to time you. You get 1 minute. We're going to be pretty rash about cutting you off. So have fun, Dimitri.
I'm Dimitri, ecommerce. We launched on Indiegogo full body motion tracking system for mobile virtual reality, supporting Gear VR, supporting Daydream, supporting iOS. I have demo here, so I'm invite you to try full body motion, not requiring PC, not requiring wearables, not requiring wires, completely untethered solution. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Oksana. I'm a founder of project MoodMe. MoodMe is the healthiest way to change your mood. So we're actually using immersive ability of virtual reality and proven mindfulness technique to help you to go to any desired mood. And actually we're looking for creators. We're calling for creators who are ready to create film-like or in Unity or in any other system, ready to create experiences which actually can change person's mood. Please write to that email, check our site. Right now we're more based on yoga and Tai Chi, but we wanna grow there. So any crazy ideas that you have how you can change person's mood, write it and we will do it together. Thank you. And I have a table and demo over there, so meet me after it.
Hello, my name's Bertie. I run a company called Virtual Umbrella with my co-founder, Sammy, who's over there. We do marketing and PR exclusively for the virtual reality industry. So it's working with developers who create something amazing and helping them really promote it and get it out there. But that's my shameless plug. I'm going to talk to you about Control, which is one of our client projects. It's a 20-minute piece of VR content. Chip Kalasek from Valve recently called it his favorite piece of VR content ever. We got it with us if you want to try it. And it made my mum cry. So just give us a shout if you want to give it a go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Hedgedorian Battersby, and I am with Callisti Incorporated. I am a spatial audio designer, and this is something that I hope that you guys will start thinking about, because VR, virtual reality, is not just what you see. You know, if I'm faced this way and I hear something behind me going, "Hey, you," I'm going to turn around. And that is what creates a 360-degree environment. So I work on music videos, and I work on theater pieces, and I do everything from setting up the mics to making sure that the right file formats are attached to the video and film, so that this way you can show it in all different types of head-mounted devices. So the takeaway is, number one, there are many of us that are working in spatial audio, and please make use of us. And number two, make use of spatial audio, because it really makes a difference in VR. Thank you.
She has a table in the back. All right, my name is Arno. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called AdVR. We are a ad tech company focusing on native ad units in VR that don't remove people from the experience and allow them to discover a whole lot of content without ever leaving VR. We've got a nice little office over by the Ferry Building, and we're hiring for a bunch of engineers, not just client side, but also like big data, back end stuff. So come find me if it sounds interesting. Thanks.
Cool. Hey guys, my name is Alex Theory, like Music Theory. I'm on the board of the Grammys. I'm also executive producer for a company called V-Squared Labs. We've done projects for people like Skrillex and Amon Tobin, and work with companies like Google and Facebook and NBC. And I'm actually working on a really cool new multi-sensory VR experience, and I'm looking for some super badass animators. So if anybody rocks Unreal in particular, or Unity, please get in touch. My email is theory, just like music theory, 411@gmail. And thanks to Chris and everybody else that's hosting this awesome event. Just super cool to be like in the middle of the tribe. And good luck, everybody. Cheers.
All right, I'm John. My company is primitive.io. That's what the shirt spells. We are making it possible to visualize computer code in VR. If you want to try it out, we have a demo in the second room back here. We are making it possible to take enterprise code, individual developers code, all the pain that you were hearing about learning how to program. We want to solve for that by making code graphical. In our demo, you can visualize a Java application that's got 20,000 lines of code. It has 6 million procedures running. We can visualize all that right now with our software. I encourage you to try it out. And also, we're funded, so we're looking to, which is great for us. So looking for other people to collaborate with on this. It's a really exciting frontier technology for data visualization, which is a very powerful use case for VR. So check us out at primitive.io. Thanks.
Hey guys, I'm Sherry. Can I say Sherry? Hey, wanted to talk to you about a volunteer community support doc. And it is called My Name is T, developed at the Time Wave Hackathon in New York City. And it is about a true story. It takes place in San Francisco about a homeless, genderqueer, turned award-winning virtual reality developer. It's a very powerful story. There's a part one, it's harrowing. Then there's a part two, very uplifting, surreal. It's done in CG. Love the support. Looking for artists, looking for developers to help us finish, and I can show you a build. So my email is ilegrooves@yahoo.com. I'll put it down over there, ilegrooves@yahoo.com. Come see me. Happy to talk about the project. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jake Mikey. I go to school at the Academy of Art for video game development, but my undergrad is in industrial design. Before that, I was in e-commerce. I have to present my thesis in a week, which right now my idea is to use photogrammetry to capture antiques from the 60s and 70s for virtual reality, optimizing. So I I'm open to suggestions. I'm going to be spending a year on this. If you want me to work on something else using photogrammetry, let me know. That's that.
Hi, my name is Helen Shao, and my company is called Mojo Home. And so before our company, when you were doing the home renovation or buying the furniture, you are actually using your imagination, trying to put together what my home can look at, can be a better place. With our product, which is actually in the first room, you can try it out. It's a fully working demo. With our product, you can, before you spend any money, you can see your place in a virtual space. Where you can walk in, and you have a catalog of products, real products that you can drag and drop into your virtual home. And once you have the goggle on, you are actually in your future home. So we have a fully working demo right now, and it was developed by the Chinese developers. We're trying to launch this product in the US market, and we're looking for technical partners to convert all the products and do the localization for the product for the US market. So please find me in that room if you're interested in experiencing this product, and I will also leave my contacts on the Google Doc. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Daniel, and I have a Gear VR, and I get tired of it getting very hot. So after 10 or 15 minutes, it gets extremely hot. I can't play anymore. I've lost focus. So I invented the V-Room. So basically it's a little docket, holds an ice pack in front of your phone so you can play up to an hour. Please give me a call or get in touch with me. I've got one to give away. If you can share with me your most humorous, your VR's gotten too hot story, I'll give it to you for free.
I was once in the bedroom. Anyway. Hi, I'm Fred Davis, and I'm on the board of a company called Spiritual VR. Spiritual VR is a VR native content company in that the content that we publish and distribute is only possible on VR. It's not possible to do the things that we're doing on any other platform. So we have content related to spirituality, religion, self-help, self-improvement, meditation, spiritual teachings, virtual churches, and so forth. And spirituality is a giant market. Many of the best-selling books of all time are spirituality books. Religion is, of course, a huge thing. Biome is that is the second phase, but late adopter thing. But within VR, because of the ability to have presence, the ability to create empathy between people, there are psychological forces at work that we are harnessing through something called active psychology. We've built up a methodology using sound psychological principles, including psychoacoustics, call out to the audio people, and basing your experiences on that so that we can help create positive outcomes in the areas that people are working on themselves, or potentially a couple having a spiritual experience together, or a group of people in a prayer circle, meditation circle. So that's really exciting stuff, and it really leverages the unique power of VR that we all know about that couldn't happen in any other medium.
Thank you.
I love coming to these things. I keep running into people that I've known for 20, 30 years in the industry. Fred's one of them. Still at it. Doing great stuff. Hi, I'm Rains Cohen. I'm a community organizer and a co-housing coach by the Coachman Scout. And I've been developing app and service related to helping people experience community. Whether we try to market these intentional neighborhoods, but pictures don't do it to get over images in their head. Like, oh, that's dorms, oh, that's communes. No, it's really lovely community. We're finding ways to offer the experience, and I'll be showing it off at the Aging 2.0 Pitch Fest, and I could use collaboration on getting a solid pitch that they'll take seriously. We'll also be showing it off and inviting you as part of the Recession Generation to Build conference in Oakland coming up July 9th. And if you know Ted, Bill is the unconference that's followed it along, and great opportunity to share, present, play with things. And so join me there, and I've created promo code GamingVR. Get you in there. Thank you.
Hello, Tired VR folks. I'm Jasper with Raptor. We create Ractives, which is a sci-fi concept from the Diamond Age, which is a live, interactive, virtual reality theater. We have created some prototypes in Unity, and they are working really well based on the fantastic contraption method of mixed reality right now. We were going to demo tonight in the green screen studio, but it was not available, so I'll just have to describe it. But it's basically a mix of structured improv theater and live multiplayer gaming on the Twitch style. And in just a few months, some apps will be released where you can join into the virtual reality simulation and talk with live actors represented as avatars. Control a storyline in real time. It's very exciting. I'm a director working with Cirque du Soleil and Upright Citizens Brigade. I believe that this is the wave of the future after the next wave. Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm with Unity. You may have heard of us. And we're right now hiring a lot of engineers and talent for our Carte Blanche team, or Carte Blanc. I can't pronounce it well. Our Carte Blanc team that basically is a VR experience to create games and or other simulations and environments through a VR headset using controls. So you can place buildings, shape them, scale them, move them, all kinds of awesome things. We're looking for a tech artist, graphical engineers, people that know things about networking and cloud and security, basically kind of across the board, senior engineering talent and senior technical artists. So if you know anybody, we'd love to speak with them to work on something really spiffy.
Hey, I'm Alex. I love VR. I suspect a lot of you do too. And I want to bring this feeling to my brother, my mom, and the rest of the world. We're at the cusp of the VR revolution, where the first generation of VR users are here, and they're very different than us. So how do we figure out how to translate that feeling that we all have to them? Well, this is part of the reason why I started Dunk Tank VR. This is part of the reason why I've been in the VR community for a while now. And so we're part of Dunk Tank VR, where we have 5 experiences out on cardboard. We're launching on all the other platforms. We've already built out the tech to do all this, and we're figuring out the creative problems. We're looking for people to help us out. And also, this weekend we did Hollow Here, which is an app for deaf people that signs for them. And we're looking to build out that content library. You can tag that, actually I'll add this, is at Hollow Here on Twitter, or you can just hit me up at Alexing. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Mark Reisman. I see some of my friends here. But I'm interested in, for tonight at least, telepresence journalism. And if any of y'all want to talk about any technical issues in VR or AR, yeah, if any of you know me, I've been doing this for most of you are bored. So if you don't want to reinvent the wheel, you have any questions or any of the historical things you can ask. But really what I'm interested in for any of you who are doing telepresence VR. Okay, spherical and
Last but not least.
I wasn't going to give up that chat. Okay. So I'm just a student. I'm looking at the fitness plus VR space wherein when you run on a treadmill, what you do? I think you just look at the wall of the television. Right? So I just want to put on VR headsets on heads of people who are running on the treadmill. I want to make it safe so that those folks don't trip, fall, or die. So I'm just here. I want thoughts or ideas or suggestions. I haven't started working on it. Thanks.
We should talk to the gentleman with the ice pack and cooling system. All right, so wrapping it up.
Yeah. This spreadsheet is online. If you look at
the emails that have come out, either on the Eventbrite page or on Meetup, there's a link to if you wanted a demo. This is the same spreadsheet, it's just a tab at the bottom. So if you want any of these people's contact info, you already have the link. But I can send it out again if you need to.
All right. So that's a wrap for non-gaming VR meetup number 4. Thank you, everybody. I know you're all tired. I know you want to drink again. Yeah. Just over 20 minutes to wrap it all up. So get your schmoozing in now. You have your needs. You have a lot of people to talk to about non-gaming VR stuff with. Thanks to Liz. Thanks to Chris. Thank you, me. Thanks to everybody else. Thanks to the volunteers. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.